So we warmly welcome you to for our webinar. So this is Institute of Engineers Sri Lanka. I will give a small brief about our organization, the Institute of Engineers Sri Lanka. This is the apex body of engineers in Sri Lanka. So we are representing the Chemical and Process Engineering Sectional Committee. So there are various sectional committees for other civil engineering, electrical engineering, and like that. So we are representing chemical and process engineering. So we are organizing this series of webinars. So especially Engineer Dhanushka, Engineer Deshaka has already conducted 2 webinars on the upstream industry. This is the 3rd one. And one more we are planning with Dr. Amaranath about safety and in the oil and gas platforms. So this will complete, this is the 3rd webinar of the series and one more to go. Yeah.
How about the feedbacks you got, Chanaka, from the last sessions? Was it?
Yeah, there was very good feedbacks because this industry is new for Sri Lanka. Especially, we are in the verge of starting upstream industry. But there are so many stories going on. But we hope there is oil in our land, our seawater as well. So this is something I think in coming future, maybe another 5-10 years time, this industry will evolve in Sri Lanka as well. So I think we are doing this series of webinar in the correct time. So especially the chemical engineers, I think they have to take the lead role in this kind of industry. So, people, people are very interested about this, and especially our academic staff as well. From the University of Moratuwa, they also very interested about this series of webinar.
Yeah.
So we are getting very good responses, Deshika.
Yeah, that's good. Good.
I think we will start, Deshika. Now it's almost 2 minutes past 5.
Yeah, we can.
So, I will officially welcome both Anne and Engineer Deshak for this webinar on behalf of Sectional Committee, Institute of Engineers Sri Lanka, Chemical and Process Engineers. So, to give a small brief about Ms. Anne, she is working for Ocker Solutions, which is a leading upstream integrating company. Industrial integrating company in Norway. So she's into marketing and into engineering demonstration activity. So today I think we have a good demonstration about how Norway is leading the oil industry and what actually other countries can learn on their success. So Engineer Deshaka also working for Ocker Solutions, and previously I think we had one discussion. So most of our members know about Engineer Deshaka. So once again, I would warmly welcome both of you. So you can start, Deshaka.
Yeah, thank you, Chanaka. Yeah, so this is as Chanaka said, the session of this webinar series. So and then today's special guest speaker is Anne Charlotte. So I should thank you very much, Anne, for accepting my request, and otherwise we wouldn't be able to conduct this one today. So it's highly appreciate that. So I have made 3 slides before she can jump into her session. So I will just briefly explain what is engineering and our company, and then some facts about the Norwegian oil history and the industry. So this is today we are at the engineering. So that is the interactive learning center. We call it like that for our group of companies, especially for the oil and gas related, energy related companies, because Arca Solutions is one of the Arca group companies, as you can see here. So engineering is on the Arca Solutions. So that it's a learning center for the general public as well as for the kids, as you can see here, with some model exhibits. Yeah, so that's about engineering. And some facts about the Norwegian oil industry, or so it's 119 fields, as you can see here. I took all this information from this website. You can just log into this. You can check this website for these facts. So it's 119 fields since the oil journey started in Norway. And here you can see like Norway produced 231 million standard cubes of oil equivalent in 2021. When you say oil equivalent, that's together with gas. So that's they say oil equivalent. That's like the energy value. So that it's the same energy value as they calculate one oil equivalent oil. That's that's a volume that equivalent to the energy value of the gas. And then here's some facts about how much the total cash flow for the year 2021 to 272 billion Norwegian krone. That's around 27 billion US dollars. And this is how much they have invested in 2021. And how many new discoveries, like 88 new discoveries only in 2021. So it's still they are discovering more oil and gas in North Sea, Norwegian Sea, and Barents Sea. So here it says only 50% is recovered, and more than 50% to recover in this North Sea and Norwegian Sea and Barents Sea. And the distribution that it says 8,800 kilometers pipeline network for the distribution of the gas. And direct employees in the sector, it's around 200,000 employees. So this is some facts about the Norwegian oil industry. And this shows how they have produced since started in 1967.
And the production started in 1971.
1971, yeah, okay, yeah. So 1971, and then it's more oil at the beginning, and it's peak around 2000, and then the oil, production is going down, but still the gas production is going up. So it's now it's like, energy-wise, it's same oil and gas production in Norway. So it's like 2 million barrels per day oil, and energy equivalent gas volume, that's also 2 million barrels per day. That's how much they produce. Now here around 2021, 2022. It's expected to be the same around until 2026. So that's some facts about Norway oil and gas industry. Then I will let Charlotte to continue the session. So we will go down to the exhibition center, and then we will continue from there. Yeah.
Okay.
Hello.
I can hear you. Can't see. That's because he's sharing. Oh. think this, yeah. Okay, so thank you for joining us here in Fornebu today, just outside of Oslo, the capital of Norway. My name is Anne Charlotte, and I work with teaching and communications here at Engineerium, Acker's interactive visitor center. I'm here to talk to you about the Norwegian oil saga, what other nations can learn from Norway, the current situation, and also our history. I will also include some of Acker's proudest projects to date. There's an echo.
Okay.
I can hear myself. Okay. Okay, so first, before we talk about the cool projects and the current situation, I would like to take you back and talk to you about the history of the Aker companies. Acker's history dates back to 1841. It started out as a mechanical workshop, specializing in making syringes, pumps, and machines. Kværner, another company, followed close behind in 1853, and they were experts in cast iron ovens and hydro turbines. These two companies, Aker and Kværner, are now merged together as one, and are in a historical perspective what we know to be Aker. Since the middle of the 1850s, going on forward, these two companies are involved in making modern Norway, really. They are involved in the electrification of Norway, building railroads and regular roads, many large industrial projects. Despite many industrial projects around Norway, Norway was not a very rich country at the start of the 1900s. First of all, we had, in 1905, we got out from a union with Sweden that had lasted for about 90 years. And also, we suffered a loss of a great deal of people who went to America. They emigrated to America. In a time period of 50 years, almost 800,000 Norwegians emigrated to America. And a lot of these people were in their prime working years. So it hit the society really hard. Norway relied heavily on agriculture and the export of fish and timber in this period. There comes a time in Norwegian history which is dominated by war. Norway was occupied by the Germans during the Second World War, and a lot of production and development of technology stopped in this period, also for Aker and Kværner. But following the war, we saw a great demand for ships. And both companies threw themselves into the shipbuilding industry and became very capable of building ships after the war. I'm moving on to talk about how we found oil in Norway. And this is a very exciting story, because in the late 1950s, not many people believed that there could be any oil or gas beneath the seabed in Norway. In the middle of the 1950s, I think there was a geological survey, and it is stated, it is highly unlikely that there is any oil or gas beneath the seabed in Norway. So they were pessimistic. But the Americans, they had crossed the pond, and they found oil in the Netherlands in an area called Groningen in 1959. And they were very optimistic and thought that perhaps there could be oil or gas in Norway as well. And the Americans, they were experts at extracting oil and gas. They had been doing this since the 1880s, I think. So they went to the Norwegian authorities, and they knocked on their door and said, hey, can we please come to Norway and look for oil and gas? And by the way, can we be the only ones who come and try? We want exclusive rights. Norwegian authorities were very skeptical about this, and I'm very glad that they were, They turned the Americans down, and they said that no, no companies can come here and claim sovereignty over our continental shelf. So that was the first blow for the Americans. But they didn't give up. They were very sure that they would find something. So they asked again. They knocked on the door and said, can we now please, we know that we can't get exclusive rights, but can we come anyway to look? Norwegian government and authorities said, let us think about it. First of all, we have to declare where our sea limits are, where there are nations' borders to other countries out in the sea. So we had to go to England and to Denmark and talk to them about where the national borders are. England and Denmark, they wanted water depth to be a criteria. And there is a significant water depth change right outside the coast of southern Norway. So they said, let's just draw the lines here. It's a very nice place to draw the line. Norway, on the other hand, they were very strict and said, no, we are not doing this. We are using the median line principle. That's the most fair way for everyone. And luckily for Norway, this is what the method that they chose, because one of the biggest oil findings in Norway of all times is located directly on the border to England and would be entirely English if it hadn't been for the median line principle and dividing the continental shelf. So after dividing the continental shelf, the Americans came knocking again for the third time, and they asked, can we now come to Norway and do exploration drilling? And Norwegian government finally gave in and said, yes, you can come. But we have one demand. You have to teach Norwegian companies how to do oil and gas. We have no knowledge about this. We know shipbuilding, we know building railroads and stuff like that, but we have no competency when it comes to oil and gas. So please teach us everything you know. So when you leave again in a few years, we are capable and independent, and we don't need foreign suppliers to help us. They said yes, of course, we will help you as much as we can. And for the next 10 to 15 years, Aker and Kværner became apprentices with the Americans, and they learned how to build equipment and platforms for the oil and gas industry. Okay, so in the beginning, exploration drilling didn't have any good results. I think they used about 6 years to find the first oil. So they were very patient and very convinced that there was something to find underneath the seabed. And it was an Aker-built rig called Ocean Viking that found the first oil. This happened in the middle of October, and it was reported to the government on the 23rd of December, 1969. So it was quite the Christmas present for the Norwegian people. And the finding was called Ekofisk, and that was the same field that was located on the border to England. This field, Ekofisk, started production in 1971. And I heard that in 2019 that the field was going to produce for at least 30 more years. So it's been producing for a long time, and there's a lot of values being extracted from that field. I mentioned that Norway didn't want anyone to have sovereignty over the Norwegian continental shelf. And that has been a very strict and core principle of Norwegian oil production. It's all the oil and gas resources in Norway belong to the Norwegian state. As a result of this, the company Statoil, which is now called Equinor, was established in 1972. where the state owns 67%. And that's where we get a lot of our oil income from, as well as taxes on oil production. I think the taxes for the companies who do oil production in Norway is over or around 80%, I think. So it's very high. So Britain and Norway, or England and Norway, they found oil at the same time, but they handled it very differently. Because in Britain, they reduced the taxes immediately for the people. But in Norway, they chose to uphold the taxes and keep the taxes high, and instead build a very strong welfare state and put the money in an oil fund that could be saved for future generations. And the Norwegian oil fund is the biggest fund in all of the world, last I heard. Right now, it's holding around 11,300 billion Norwegian kroner, and that translates to 1,000 billion US dollars. We also have a very strict rule. You're only allowed to use 3% of the return of investment every year in the national budget. This ensures that we don't spoil the money away, and it can really be saved for future generations. So that is the Norwegian oil history in a few words. And please ask questions if you have them. I will now move on to talk about some of our proudest projects to date, starting with this one over here. So what you see here is a semi-submersible drilling rig called Ocker H3. It is very similar to Ocean Viking, the platform that found the first oil in Norway. Aker built 37 of these in the 1960s and 1970s, and many of them have been rebuilt, but most of them are still operating today. We have its little brother here as well. As you know, this is H3. Over here, we have H6E. So this is its little brother in terms of age, but in every other matter, such as power and capacity, it's a big brother. The E in H6E stands for extreme. This drilling rig can operate in extreme conditions with waves up to 20 meters, no problem at all. It cost $500 million US to build and $1 million to lease per day. Aker built 2 of these, and it has a dual ram rig in the middle there. It means that it can perform 2 drilling operations at the same time. It can drill on water depths up to 3,000 meters, and the drilling depths can be up to 10,000 meters, both vertically and horizontally. So this is a very powerful platform used in very harsh conditions all over the world. And you can actually live track this online to see where it is performing drilling operations right now, for those of you who are interested in that. So over to one of my personal favorites over here. What you can see here is the Troll A platform. This is a concrete deep platform. It was built in 1995 and started producing gas in 1996. It's a very cool platform for many reasons. First of all, it holds 2 world records. This is the tallest structure ever moved by man. It took 7 days to tow this out to its field, the Troll field, outside of Bergen on the western coast of Norway. It was a very complicated process. The second world record it holds is that the world's deepest concert was held down here in the production facilities in 2006 at the 10th anniversary. And the artist Katie Malua sang at the bottom there on the 303 meters water depth. And there's an elevator in one of these legs, and it takes 9 minutes. And just to compare the size of this, it's 472 meters tall. So the Lotus Tower in Colombo reaches to about here. I think it gives you a kind of perspective on how large this is. So for you who are engineers, this is probably very interesting. Building these legs for the platform, it took 1 year, and over 1,000 people worked continuously over a year and poured concrete into a slip form without stop. If they had stopped during this process, it could have created a structural weakness in one of the legs, and it could bring the whole structure down. So it was a very massive project and one of the greatest success stories on the Norwegian shelf. It is set to produce for about 70 years. And as of right now, it delivers 8% of the total gas consumption to the EU countries. So it's a lot of value for Norway in this field. So let's move on to see Åsgard over here. So Åsgard is one of our newer projects, but the idea itself is not that new. In 1985, an engineer who works for Ocker Solutions called Kjell Olav Stinesen had the idea that he drew on a napkin. And 30 years later, in 2015, his idea was a reality. This is this Åsgard Subsea gas compression system, located on the Åsgard field in the mid part of Norway, outside of Trondheim. This subsea structure is placed on the seabed in order to increase the recovery rate from a field. His idea was that if you are closer to the source, you can get more out. And they chose this place because in the Mikkel and Midgard wells, it was difficult to ensure a stable flow. So they put this down on the seabed, and the recovery rate went from 59% to 87%. And that's a gas for a lot of value, or a lot of values, yes. And just to point out how big of a project this is, 5 engineers worked for over a year just to plan how to install this structure on the seabed. And this is, of course, a very scaled model. The actual structure that's on the seabed, it covers an entire football field. So you can see the car on top of the structure. It gives you an idea of the scale. So these types of subsea structures are usually used on greater water depths, because you can't build concrete legs or steel legs that go forever, because it will be too unstable. So in places where there's a water depth of more than perhaps 500 meters, it is better to use a subsea structure. We see that in the Mexican Gulf and outside of Brazil, and areas such as that. And I also know that the oil findings in Sri Lanka have been at great water depths. So perhaps this is something for Sri Lanka to consider when you're building out how to produce the oil. Mm-hmm. So the last model I would like to show is a newer one. It's a very up-and-coming project right now. This is the Johan Sverdrup field. It's a giant field that started production in 2019. It's located also on the western coast of Norway. Most fields are on the western coast. with water depths of 110 meters. It's the third largest field in Norway ever, and it's estimated to hold 2.7 billion barrels of oil equivalent. And they expect to get out at approximately 70% from this field. It uses the latest technology when it comes to CO2, and it emits 100 times lower than the world average. And this is largely due to that it uses power from shore. To give you an idea of how giant this project is, usually we put the areas of a platform on one platform because this platform or this field is so great or big. Each area has gotten its own platform. So we have living quarters, process platform, drilling platform, delivery areas, and yeah, it gives you an idea of how grand this is really. And when this is up and producing at max capacity, it will be responsible for approximately 30% of the total oil production in Norway. So just to give you some summary, since the start in the early 1970s, petroleum activities have contributed with almost 1,600 billion US dollars to Norway's GDP. And so far, as Shaka told us upstairs, approximately 50% remains still in the reservoir. So we have a lot of resources left to retrieve. The daily production is around 2 million barrels each day. I will talk just a little bit about what others can learn from Norway. This is coming from me, not Acker's perspective, but this is what I think you can learn. I think you can learn that Norway has been able to build a very strong welfare state because of the income from the oil. And that's mainly due to a strong state ownership. That has been clear from day one, that the Norwegian state owns the oil. They did not hesitate to take control in the 1960s when the Americans came asking. They set demands and they took control. And we can be very happy that that the oil and gas did not fall on private hands. That would look, I think the Norwegian society would look a lot differently if that was the case. Also, instead of doing what England did by reducing taxes, we upheld the taxes. We made it possible to save all the money in a fund instead of sharing the money that we owned with the people. We saved it for future generations, and we now have the biggest fund in all of the world, saving that for future generations. I also would like to point out that I think it's important that the industry and companies such as Aker and Kværner have been great at transitioning and meeting the demands of its time. They are great examples of this because they took everything they know from the shipbuilding industry and turned that into knowledge about the oil and gas industry. And I'm very glad that the Norwegian authorities helped by doing this and set demands for the Americans and said that, okay, you can come, but you have to teach us so that when you leave again, we are independent and we are not dependent on foreign suppliers to help us do this. So I think it's good to have the competency and the knowledge in-house or in country. That's a good thing, I think. Yes. A little bit about the current situation. Norway is the second largest gas exporter to Europe, only surpassed by Russia. And I think it's natural to take a moment and talk about the situation in Europe right now with Russia's invasion of Ukraine. This has had a lot of consequences for the European countries as well. So while the whole world is now sanctioning Russia economically and in terms of cooperation and trade, a large part of Europe are still dependent on Russia and their oil and their gas. Russia delivers 45% of Europe's gas and 25% of Europe's oil. As of last week, the EU is now making a plan to be less dependent on Russia. And the EU commissioner, he stated that the way to do this is by kickstarting the transition into green energy. And he says, let us haste into green energy with the speed of lightning. So I think perhaps that's where Europe is heading now. They're going to put a lot of effort into greener energy, which is very good for the environment. Also, they are looking for a more stable fossil energy provider. And Norway is the natural choice for that. And as of right now, the production levels in Norway are too low to be able to handle the demands that Europe have for oil and gas. But I know that the government is talking about how to meet Europe's energy needs going forward. It's not a secret that we have to eventually replace the world's demand for oil and gas. I think that Aker is taking, all of the Aker companies are taking their role in this very seriously. They are at the very forefront when it comes to developing technology that has a lower impact and reduced emissions. And we have individual companies that develop new solutions in wind power, solar power, carbon capture, and saving the oceans from plastic. So I think we are heading towards a greener future. I really do. That's everything that I had. And thank you so much for joining us. I hope you learned something useful.
Chanaka.
Yes, yes, Deshika.
Yeah. So maybe audience can ask questions if they have
Yes,
some
Deshika,
questions.
yes.
You can try to
Yeah,
answer
so I
as
think
much as possible.
yeah, we have a number of participants. So participants, you can unmute and start discussion. So first of all, I would like to ask one question that I wanted to ask. So basically, and when this technology transfer is happening during the initial period, where you said in 1960s, so how the preparedness of the Norwegian technical people and organizations to grasp the technologies, and how well they were prepared at that time?
I hear a lot of echo. Did you hear the question? Okay. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm. Okay. Yes. So I'm sorry. I hear a bit of echo and a bit of other sounds.
Okay.
Yes. So how the society was prepared when these technical transitions happened when the Americans came.
Yeah.
First of all, I think the universities around Norway, they focused on offering educational programs for this. I know that especially in Stavanger, which is the oil capital of Norway, a lot of businesses, how should I say this? La til rette. It means facilitated and made sure that, how should I say? Yeah, it was a very, I'm sorry, I can't find the right words right now, but it included the whole society. Every industry was involved in this. It was a very big day, the day that we found the oil, and everyone threw themselves into this. Can we help in some way? We have some steel products, we have some iron products. Maybe we can use this, maybe we can adapt this to be something else. And they kind of helped each other, and it was a dugnad is the Norwegian word, but a very collective effort. I hope
Thanks,
that's
Anne.
an okay answer.
That clarifies. That clarifies. Engineer, you were saying something?
Yeah, I'm Pisalian again. Yeah, I want to ask what is the roughly the cost of a platform, roughly setting up cost of a platform of say for oil, like in the range of how many $1 billion or something. It depends, maybe depends on the depth of the sea. The offshore platforms now, say for example, say 2 kilometers in Sri Lankan context, 2,000 meters. How will be the cost of platform in dollar terms? Any clue on that?
Building platforms. You can take it.
Yeah, I think it's in at least 4 to 5 billion in my. If I check the latest projects in Norway, so they have spent, for example, this project you see here, Johan Sverdrup, that they have spent 12 billion, as I remember. It's quite a lot, and this is not deep sea. And there's another project I can show you, this Johan Castberg, that's for deep sea. This like FPSO. So that they spend, I think they expected to spend 4 billion, but they end up, I think, around 6 or 7 billion. It changes quite a lot, and yeah, because throughout the project you face certain like challenges that you don't expect prior hand, so cost can escalate drastically. This is a very good example for that. But at least I would say 5-6 billion for deep sea development.
Yeah, and the subsea structures cost more to build than the topside platforms usually.
I have one more question. Can I ask?
Yes, please.
Yeah, you know, do Norway engaged in this type of building, this type of platforms outside Norway in various other parts of the world? Have you?
Yes, Ocker Solutions have offices all around the world, and I know that they use shipyards in Korea, mostly, yeah. So they are definitely involved in different locations around the world. And they have building these subsea structure, for example, a big office for this in, or a wharf in Brazil.
Yeah, I have one question. Hello.
Yes, Prashant, we can hear you.
Yeah. What will be what is the best method of identification of the gases in the offshore and onshore? And what will be the cost of that?
Yeah, that's a bit hard question, but in offshore, it's the seismic studies are the studies that you can identify the exact resources as yeah, we know. But to be honest, we are not into that area, because we are like developing upstream facilities. So, but technology-wise, seismic studies are the latest technologies that you can discover.
There was an echo. I'm not sure whether the answer is clear to Sushant. Sushant, are you clear?
No, not clear, not clear. There was echo.
Yeah, there was some echo, Deshaka.
Hello?
Yes, yes. Now it's clear.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, no, I told that the seismic studies are that's the technology that you can use to identify the resources in offshore. So because that's not our competence area, actually, me and both Anne. So it's to be honest, we don't have much knowledge about that area, but as far as we know, that's of course they can use the airborne surveys like they did in Sri Lanka quite recently. But still, you need to have some to get accurate data to build a model. You need to have a seismic survey so that you can send the seismic waves, and then based on the reflection you estimate how far the reservoir located, and then based on that data you develop a 3D model. Based on that you start drilling. That's the normal philosophy.
Yeah. Hello.
Yes, Sushant.
Yeah. What are the environmental impacts during the drilling, and what are the mitigating measures we can take during the drilling and the harvesting?
During drilling and of course during the seismic surveys also, you the natural environment get affected, of course, like in the seismic studies you do some heavy sound waves so that the fish and all this can get infected, but still they are trying like new technologies to like instead of having the explosions on the sea, the water level, they try to do on the sea bed, things like that. Things are getting improved, but still there's an impact by those surveys also during drilling. Yes, you get some environmental impact. Of course, if it if you the drilling waste, for example, if you just throw it to the sea, then of course it's waste. But they, at least in North Sea, they don't do that. They all extract and purify before they put back anything back to the sea. That it's very strict by the law and the rules, and they are keep observing with the satellites, and because it's different operators in the Norwegian Sea, North Sea, so they have like dedicated satellites placed watching 24/7 the sea bed, and if there's any like a spillover, or like if someone is if some well is producing something to the sea, so they keep pushing those activities. So that's how they mitigate that environmental impact. Yeah.
This once again, do now in Norway you pump gas, natural gas into Europe, you said. Apart from sending natural gas through pipelines, do you do liquefaction and sending through tankers to other parts of the world?
Yeah, that also we do in Norway. There's a plant in most upper part of the Norway called Hammerfest and Snow White field, and the plant. So they liquefy the natural gas and send it to distribute all around the world as LNG. So they do it, but the most popular way of distribution is the pipeline in Europe. But still they do LNG plants operation. Yeah. Any more questions?
Audience, any other questions?
Hi, good day to all.
Yeah,
good evening.
Yeah, my question is, it is clear that whole the world today moving towards the green energy. But in this discussion, I heard that Norway still has crude and fuel up to another 30 years. So my question is, what is the future plan of the Norwegian crude extraction. And so do you going to increase the extraction rate or keep some reservation in future? So that is my question.
I know that the business that the company Ocker Solutions have said that they will reduce emissions by 30% by 2030, and the whole industry have said that by 2015 there will be zero emissions from the oil and gas industry in Norway. And I would like to point out that we have the strictest form of oil and gas production in Norway when it comes to the environment. So even though fossil energy in itself is not good for the environment, we do everything we can to keep it as the production as clean as and environmentally friendly as possible.
Yes, thank you. And that how that will be affected to this industry, because world's big amount of money is circulating in this industry. Once this industry went decay, that's mean going to be finished. So how the industry and the people will survive?
I think that the same thing that will happen that happened in the 60s and 70s, that the companies that today are working with oil and gas will transition over to something else. We see that already. Just a few years ago, the companies working with wind and solar power and carbon capture here in Ocker, they weren't companies really. So this happened just in a few years, and I think that's the way we are going, so that in say 10 to 15 years, maybe the Shaka here is not working with the oil or gas. Maybe he is working in the greener energy. But he has taken what he knows from oil and gas and used this knowledge in a different company or a greener company. Yeah.
Yes, thank you very much. And I have another question. Maybe this is something because I know that once the crude extracted from the ground, where the reserves. So after the extraction, what happened to this void under the soil, under the ground, underneath the ground? This void after the extraction, the oil.
I think he's referring to the void after extracting the oil in the underground reservoir.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, but normally what we do that we inject back the water that produces from the reservoir. Also, we inject purified seawater as well in some cases to avoid this vacuum inside the seabed. Also, that there are some certain projects going on to inject CO2, liquefied the CO2 for these cavities, so that that's one of the most safest place that you can store CO2. So it's yes, the authorities is making sure that it's not making any like vacuum or something like that underneath the seabed, which can collapse the seabed. So they evaluate those risks and take actions accordingly, like injecting water or like injecting back some gas that you can't like commercially produce, or so some water injection, extra water injection, and CO2, liquefied the CO2 injection. That those are the measures that they take.
If I ask, is there any particular standard or any organization who is governing these mitigation plans, or how it happens? It is up to the up to the oil well owner to decide what to do or how it goes actually.
Everything is decided upon by the Norwegian state. So it's not a voluntary or it's not a choice that the oil companies can make. There are very strict rules and regulations that they have to follow. So they set the rules. Yeah.
Thanks. Any other questions, audience?
Yeah, I have one last question that about the preparedness for, you said in another, say, 15 years or later more, Ocker Solutions will not engage, planning to phase out or something, the petroleum industry. What is the preparedness of your company for green energy? Like, have you done investments for renewable energy sector like windmills and hydrogen production and so on? Have you done, what is the preparedness of your company for green energy?
Yes, there are companies separate from Ocker Solutions called Ocker, how should I say this? They're called Ocker Carbon Capture. We have Rev Ocean. We have Ocker Biomarine. We have Ocker Energy. Separate companies that work with within the greener energy fields. So they are all owned by the Ocker as a mother company. So they're kind of under the same umbrella, the same family.
Yeah, actually, if I add something to that, what Arca is doing, like they are trying to, as she mentioned before Norway found oil, Arca was not the oil company, right? They were producing ships and the other industrial, yeah. But then when the oil and gas are found, then they transfer that knowledge to build the oil and gas company. But now it's a trend towards renewable energy. So what they are doing now, they have formed separate companies, as Anne said, and then so the same people that work with the oil and gas industry, they develop the energy solution for the green field. So that they're just transferring, knowledge to the renewable industry. So that's what they do, and I think they are quite success in that because it's quite a lot of experience that as a company they own. Like for example, when they go to offshore wind farms, that now in the North Sea they are making quite a giant North Sea wind farms, like making a few gigawatts. Then again, this the knowledge that they have, like steel structures, concrete structures, like the power units, they all it's the same. It's just like a different way of using the knowledge. So I think they are using that quite successfully, and they will be succeeded in the next decade or the next.
Thank you very much, and it's great that you are investing onto green energy. Thank you.
Yeah, welcome.
Nishant, you have any question? You're raising the hand.
Oh, sorry, it was previously raised. Sorry.
Right. Okay. Thank you, Nishant. Thank you. Any other questions? Otherwise, we can conclude. We don't have any other questions.
Yeah.
So, any final comments, Deshak?
Yeah, I should thank you guys, ISL Sri Lanka, for organizing this session. It's very good that kind of knowledge transfer and then experience transfer from Norwegian sector. We should thank Anne Charlotte once again for her commitment. She could have easily said, no, I have other tasks at the weekend, but she is here in the weekend to help us and to teach us how the industry has been, and so once again I thank Charlotte and thank you for organizing this session, Chanaka and the team, ISL Sri Lanka. That's it from my side.
Yes, Disha. So on behalf of sectional committee, we should thank Charlotte and Deshaka for taking your, I think today is Saturday evening. So spending time with us and explaining us the industry and challenges in the industry as well. And I think our participants have gained good knowledge about how the industry and which way actually we need to think and what kind of challenges are there. So I think when time comes, our people can contribute to that as well. We are waiting to, that in Mana Basin we have some reservoirs. So we are hoping that in coming future, even Ocker Solutions and Norway can, maybe partner with Sri Lanka and do some work. So thank you very much. And thank you very much for coordinating as well. So
one suggestion.
Yes, Prabhat.
Suggestion from my side. Yes,
Sure.
sir. It was a fruitful session. Actually, I like to suggest that continue this session for another steps as we get some more knowledge about this industry.
Yes, thank you, Prabhat. So I think we can time to time we can start. We can meet and start doing some activities maybe once in a year, maybe a couple of times in a year like that. So I think this knowledge transition and is very much required. So I think we can do very good work in coming years. Anything, Mr. Tissa, if you have anything to add?
Yeah, I think it was a very good session. And actually, in fact, I was very keen on especially the green energy area. So I hope you will provide us from the Norwegians. I know that Norway is very good in green energy, like hydrogen production from renewable energy and so on. So we expect in a future session to share your Ocker Solutions, any experience on green energy area, especially the hydrogen production and so on, because now we also gradually planning to move on to certain, because we have the wind, we are moving on to wind power, especially wind and solar. So I think Norway's experience and the knowledge, especially the knowledge on green energy area, hydrogen production and so on, will be very useful for our future of Sri Lankan green energy and renewable energy industry. So thank you very much for your knowledge and your sharing your experience. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome, Mr. Tissa.